come on and be somewhat of host tonight. I've had kind of a rough week. It kind of drives me nuts. As you guys know, I talked to Chris Jericho. That was awesome. I'll be on Talk Jericho. I don't know when he's going to put it on, but and by the way, Chris Jericho, class act. Guy's a complete class act. In fact, all the wrestlers are. I was backstage at the WWE, and all those guys are cool guys. But it's funny, when I was doing the interview, I was kind of feeling a little bit dizzy. Like, I was kind of not really feeling myself, and ended up in the ER the next day. My chest was hurting, and I had 102, 103 fever, and I still have it today. Woke up this morning, couldn't even tell you what day it was this morning, and it kind of bums me out because I had about 4 shows planned this week, and I canceled all of them, and I was even going to cancel everything this week. And Mo and Tim were kind enough to come on and help me out with the show tonight. So thank you, guys.
No problem, man.
You're more than welcome.
So tell me about the expedition. How did the expedition go?
It went really, really well. Better than expected. We had some events happen. We basically, we started the day off rather slow, and then it got into the expedition's Friday night. We had some at our base camp. We had some howls and stuff. We got recordings, and then Saturday we went ahead and we just went out and we split groups up. And we got some, we got some vocals and stuff as we were walking in a certain area, and then late Saturday night Tim and I decided that we were going to do a little expedition, and we were just going to basically get people to go in a participant's vehicle and go down to an area. Now, Tim couldn't go, but we picked these people out of the group and took them down to an area, and they got they got a little scared. They were all pretty cool about it. I think I was scared the most, but because I started out leading the group, and then when we got the vocalization, Waylon said, "It's time to go. We got to go." Then I was the rear of the group, and it was pretty crazy. I got a low growl behind me, and when we got to one of the participants' vehicle, he couldn't open the passenger side door, and I was like looking around with my flashlight, my high-powered flashlight, constantly looking around me, waiting for him to get his vehicle open. And I caught some eye shine, and the eye shine was a greenish eye shine, and the eyes were very, very far apart. And we think it may have been the gray walker. I don't know, but down in that area where we got the drone footage is where I was shining my flashlight, and that's what I got. So, but it went rather well. We got a ton of vocals, and people had an awesome time. We got people coming back. The expedition in April, they liked it so much. Some people stayed an extra day and even got more vocals in certain areas that we told them to go to, and it was really something, Wes. People had a great time.
Yeah, I figured they would. What kind of vocals were you getting before you got the growl?
We were getting that, and I've had it many times. Now, what happened is that we took the people to the spot where you and Bob got the log thrown at you. Remember the spot, right?
Yeah.
So we get there, and I'm explaining to them, this is the spot, this is where it happened, and all of a sudden we got, the owl. We got that. I'm like, and I love owls. And I was just about to tell them, look, I'm going to go ahead and do an owl call back to them because I like talking to the owls. And as soon as I said that, we got that stuff. And that's when Waylon was like, he's like, we got to go. That's a warning. We got to go. And I completely agreed with Waylon. I said, we got to get out of here. And that's when Waylon was now the head of the little group, and I was bringing up the rear. And that's when I got that growl behind me. It was like that, and I was like, "Oh man, this is not good." So that's pretty much the sounds we got. We got that monkey stuff, that monkey warning that I've got before, and a low growl in that area.
Jesus. What about you, Tim? Did you have a separate group?
On Friday, we took, I guess we really just took one big group, and we left the base camp there. And our goal was to teach people some things and to get them out and keep them in the field. So they did what we did, and we walked down several trails and found some interesting tracks and some trails that go off on the side. We found some, actually, I was quite surprised. We found some really, really big wolf tracks in the mud. So we were all kind of blown away by that. So we were gone probably about 2 or 3 hours. We came back. I went down and showed them another particular spot and gave them the history of that spot. That was pretty much the first day. We kept them out on the field all day. And then the second day, Mo took half the group and I took half the group, and I took them on about a 3.2, 3.3 mile walk that took them through some Indian mounds and whatnot. And we got all the way to the back, and we found some tracks, and we found a lot of other things there too. But the most interesting point was right over on base camp. I had already known that Bob and I and Mo have already known that they would go in. They like this area with spring coming up because there's wild bay all through there. Wild bay. And they'll eat the berries on that bay. So we went back there, and the trails had been being used. So I found about a 6.5, 7-inch track, and then right beside it was about a 16-inch track. So we were able to tracked them down the trail, and found a good enough one for the little one to cast. So I casted that track, and then one of the participants casted about that 16-inch track. And the cool thing about that particular track is the little last toe on it is like deformed. It like goes out, it's splayed out there. So it was really cool. Some sort of injury, I'm thinking. But yeah, that in that area is actually where you camped, Wes. That was the camp where we found that stuff. And it was actually funny. We're sitting around, and we started getting crazy vocals, and everybody was quiet, and I said, well, this is why it's called Jurassic Park.
Yeah, was that Chuck that casted that track?
It was Chuck. Chuck did cast the track.
Let's bring Chuck on.
Okay.
Chuck, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, sir.
And if you would, kind of tell us about your experience on the expedition.
Okay. First night we were there, it was Friday evening, and had a night hike. Part of the group went south, and we went north. It was down the pipeline. I was on the south side, and walking down through there, some of us had Generation 3 night vision, and some of us had thermal imagers. And while walking down through there, I saw an image with my Generation 3 night vision, and I could tell it was moving. I called for the guy that was walking behind me, had the thermal, and he come up there beside me, and he saw it with the thermal, and we sat there and watched it for several minutes, and watched it move, and then it kind of backed away and went into the bush.
Was it upright?
No, it actually, when we saw it, it looked like it was on all fours. To me, it looked like it was like swaying back and forth. So it was pretty close. We walked on down a little ways, and we kept hearing twigs snap on both sides of this firewall. I call it a firewall. I don't know really what, right-of-way, I guess. And the right-of-way was about probably 10 yards wide, and we kept hearing twigs snap as we were walking. And we got to a spot where there was a big tree that was laying there. We decided to take a break right there. I saw another one. This one actually looked like it was kind of laying on the ground. And I saw it with a Gen 3. And again, I called for the guy that had the thermal, and he saw it too. And at the same time that was taking place, some guys on the other side of the pathway saying, hey, we got something over here too. So I think at the one time there was actually two of them, and they were on opposite sides of each other. And I can distinctly remember Javier telling us, hey, I think they're trying to surround us. And that was kind of a pretty intense situation for all of us, I think, at that time.
Sounds like it was. Now, you got some tracks, didn't you? Tell me about the tracks.
Actually, we went to a different campsite. Mo and Tim kind of went off behind the campsite, and I was kind of trailing behind them, I guess. And Tim actually found the first track, and it was kind of a smaller one. And then he found a larger track right next to it. And I think Mo actually found one that was a little bit better than the other one, the large track. I asked Mo if I could cast it, and Mo said, sure. So that's the one I cast and brought it back with me. And I'm in the process of cleaning it up, making it look a little better than it was. It was a pretty good track.
The size of it, Chuck, I can't recall. Was it in the 15, 16-inch range?
Actually, no. I think it was a little bit smaller than that. I think it's right at 13.
Okay, it's at 13. Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I couldn't either. Is there any distinguishing things you could say about the track?
I know before we casted the track, I looked at it real close, and man, the distinct toes were very impressionable. The heel was somewhat impressionable too. It kind of looked like, to me, it had jumped to this particular spot and come down on its heel first, and then looked like it might have been running or jumping or something, because the toes were very distinct in the print, and you could also see the I can't remember what it's called. It's between the toes and the heel.
Mid-tarsal break?
Mid-tarsal break. I mean, it was very distinct on the print, and actually that part of the cast really turned out well. I mean, you can see it very clear, and the toes are, I'm starting to get some definition on the toes now. Of course, that area down there is real thick, and there's pine needles everywhere, and I'm glad that the track is actually turning out the way it is, because you can actually see some definition to it.
That one, if I recall, it had a you could see the Osterman's pads on it really, really good. And you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean by Osterman's pads, right?
Yes.
I don't think Wes is doing too good. Let's stop for a second. He sounds like he's throwing up. We'll have to edit this part.
Okay.
Sorry. But I was trying
we'll be like, let the midnight special
shine a light on me.
Sounds like he's got a flu bug.
I think he should just leave that in the recording. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Put it on the show.
Am I doing okay? I'm a little bit nervous on all this. Am I doing all right?
You're doing fine.
You're
okay.
fine.
I feel like I need to go drive to Washington and take Wes to the emergency room and start an IV on him and stuff.
I mean, man, he is really, really hacking it up back. Wow. Well, I mean, what a trooper to come on and do the show, man. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
He kind of passed it off to us. Probably why, but we're picking him up puking, so we'll wait.
I mean, it sounds like he's got like black lung or something.
He's been. If he's really got 102, man, he needs to be careful.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He needs some Gatorade and he needs Pedialyte or something like that.
Yeah, he needs some Pedialyte. That's what he needs to get. Wow. Hey, I got your email, Chuck, and man, I would really love to come up to that area. Seriously, man.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds really cool.
There's some pretty good spots, I think.
Yeah, you're in north central Oklahoma.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good stuff over there.
I'm about 20 miles from the Indian casino.
Yeah.
20 miles north of it.
Oh, yeah.
You okay, Wes?
I'm really sorry, you guys. I'm sorry, Chuck. It's not you. It's not you, buddy. I'm really sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, I heard you as
We
I was
did.
talking to Chuck, and I was trying not to.
So we just stopped. We just kind of stopped.
Wes,
No,
I'll
it's
tell you what,
perfectly fine.
Wes, you're a trooper for even doing this, man. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Thanks, Chuck. I'll try and not throw up. So, Chuck, tell me about the audio or the vocals that you heard.
Wes, I'll tell you what, that was one of my main reasons for going. I didn't really care if I saw anything or if I found the tracks. I mean, I was really interested in the audio, and what we heard both nights just it blew me away. Howls, screams, just everything, and it all seemed to start up about 10 o'clock at night. And man, at the 10 o'clock hour, it sounded like you were in a primate house at the zoo. I mean, it just got crazy, just one after another, and then that would last a couple minutes, and then it'd get quiet again, and then a little bit later, it'd all start back up again, and I was very amazed of what we heard.
The thing about it is, Chuck, Wes, and everybody, when you're with a large group and everybody's chatting it up and, having a good time, laughing and stuff, I go out and walk the perimeter of the camp, and it's amazing what I hear whenever things get loud or escalate at the camp, people laughing and stuff. It's amazing what I hear. I hear these vocals. And
Right.
I think what I'm going to do next time is when we do have that and people are talking around the campfire, I'm going to designate somebody. I'm going to pick somebody from one of the participants and have them walk the perimeter with me and let them hear that, like what you heard, Chuck.
Right. And Mo, I tell you what, I actually had some audio recorders that were out away from the campsite, and I can remember sitting at the campsite and everybody's talking, and we're talking, telling stories and stuff, and having a good time. And when I got my recordings back to the house and started listening to them, I was like, holy cow! Some of the stuff that I caught on my recorders, just I didn't hear at the time. I've got wood knocks that I don't think I ever heard while we were sitting at camp, and just vocals like crazy. I mean, it was definitely. I'm glad I have my recorders because I have that stuff now, and it was just amazing. Just the vocals were just tremendous there, unbelievable. And here in Oklahoma, we've got Bigfoot around here and Sasquatch around here, but you don't hear. I mean, in some cases you do, but in most cases you don't hear the vocals like I heard down there. I mean, it was just unreal.
If you could describe the vocals in a couple of words, what would you describe the vocals as?
I tell you what, there were some screams that I heard on my recordings that gave me goosebumps. The howls were tremendous. I mean, there's really no way to describe it unless you're there and you're listening to it. There's a couple of those recordings that I've got on my recorders that it just brings a chill to me. I mean, because I've never heard some of that stuff before. I mean, I grew up in the, hunting and fishing and all that kind of stuff growing up, and I've never heard anything like that out in the wild. And, I've heard cougars scream while I was deer hunting, and this is nothing like that at all. You can almost hear the power that these things have when they start yelling. And, my imagination kind of went wild. I'm thinking, man, this thing has got some lungs, you know, to be able to put out that kind of noise and to be, you know, at a pretty good distance from us, and for it to put out a noise like that is, you know, it's a big animal.
It is a lot like being at the primate exhibit at the zoo. That's the best way I describe it. I'm kind of with you on that, Chuck. That's how I would describe it.
It's pretty crazy. I was definitely surprised of how many vocals at one time we were hearing. Mm-hmm. And it's like they all start up together. And the funny thing is you hear it from several different places. It's not one distinct location. It's all around you. I was just really amazed at what we heard.
Pretty bone chilling, huh?
Yes, very.
It's still bone chilling for us at times, but you know, and then other times you'll go out there and it'll just be quiet as a tomb, you know. But you know, the other thing that I had a couple participants ask me, I don't know if you got this feeling, but you know, even at night, you didn't even have the normal night sounds there. It was so quiet at times, just quiet.
I did pick up on that, and there were a lot of times. One thing I did notice on some of my recordings was, you know, I guess we're pretty close to the Houston airport. I don't think it's too far off. Every time you could tell it was a jumbo jet would come over, it was almost as if the noise from the jet made them mad. And I know that sounds crazy, but
no, it doesn't.
There's several recordings that I have that you can hear this great big jumbo jet flying over the top, and like in a matter of seconds, all heck breaks loose. I mean, to me, that's what was going on. Was either this hurts their ears or just I don't know what the deal was, but they went crazy after that would take place.
Well, let me tell you something. The first night that I went out with Bob Garrett, when I first met Bob, and we went out at night, I was hearing planes go overhead, just like you said, big jets. And it was amazing, the screams and yells you got when those jets went over. It was like it riles them up or something. I don't know what it does to them, but it just makes them go crazy. And I was just amazed at it. You know, I think, like you, Chuck, I think they're either screaming at it or they just get upset. I don't know.
It was a pretty hair-raising sound listening to it on the recorder. I didn't necessarily hear it, you know, while I was at camp or anything, but listening to it when the recorder's out there, it's a whole different ball of wax, for sure.
Chuck, did you have any a Bigfoot encounter prior to this, or you just have been?
Yes, I did actually, Wes. Last November, here in Oklahoma, I live close to the Cimarron River, which is actually north of me, and I work the oil field at night, or used to. I'm back to days now, but anyway. At that time, I was working nights, and about 6 o'clock in the morning, my dispatcher told me to go to this certain location. I'd been there lots of times, and I went there to do a job. I got there and got out of my truck, and as soon as I got out of my truck, every hair in my arm stood up, and I felt like I was being watched. It was, I think it was either the first or second day of deer season, so the thought that went through my mind, well, you know, there's a hunter out here or something. So I took a quick look around the location to see if I could see anything or hear anything. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. And so at that point in time, I thought, well, maybe I'm just really tired. And so I went ahead and started doing my job, and I hauled back in my truck to write out a ticket. While I was writing out the ticket, I thought I saw something with my peripheral vision or out of the corner of my eye, however you want to call it. I thought I saw movement in front of me. And immediately I looked up. I see this area that I'm looking at is a sand dune, but it's covered with brush and trees. It's been there for a long time. What I see is this face looking out from the tree beside the tree. He's peeking around the tree, and he's looking at me. I immediately grabbed my cell phone and snapped a couple pictures. I was kind of Johnny on the spot when that happened. I mean, I'm pretty good about if I see something that I don't know what it is or something like that, I immediately try to find out what it is. So I took a couple pictures, and after I did that, I sat there and stared at it for 50 or 60 seconds. Never saw any movement. I still didn't hear anything. And so at this point in time, I'm thinking, I've really lost my mind. You know, I must be really tired thinking this, you know, not seeing any movement. I was second guessing what I was seeing. And so I finished the job. I got back in the truck and was getting ready to leave the location. And I looked up one last time, and it wasn't there. And what I estimate the height of it, I would estimate it was somewhere between 6 and 7 feet tall. I thought there's no way it would have left tracks because, like I said, it's on a sand dune, and that sand, we call it sugar sand here in Oklahoma. And you take a footstep in it, and it just, your track just is covered back over almost instantly. I know there wouldn't have been any tracks, but I do know what I saw, and I know what I felt. You know, the guys at work, I've been made fun of quite a bit for what I saw and the picture that I took, and I even have a brother that's 10 years younger than me, and he thinks that I've lost my mind. Anyway, he's made fun of me over the years for believing in this subject. So his deer lease is just right down the road from there, and one night we were talking, and I showed him my picture and stuff and told him what I saw and how I felt. And he just kind of blew me off a little bit, and he sat there and he was real quiet. And he said, "You know what?" He said, me and my wife went down to the deer lease, and he said, we spent the night down there at deer camp. He said, during the night, he said, we heard the most human-sounding owl I've ever heard in my life. And he said, we not only heard it once, but we heard it twice. And I looked at him and I said, well, you do know that they mimic owls, don't you? And he just kind of blew me off at that comment. What's funny is Sunday evening when I was coming back from the expedition down there, he called me. He wanted to know what we saw and what I had seen, and I told him about the track and told him what I had seen. And my brother finally stopped me in mid-sentence, and he says, I don't want to hear any more. And I said, why not? And he said, because I'm still a hunter, and I'm still out in the woods, and I don't want to know what's out there.
Better not
to know. Anyway, that was my first sighting. I'd waited a long time for it, and I do believe what I saw was the Sasquatch. It never made a sound. I never saw it move. I just know that 1 minute it was there, and a few minutes later when I looked up, it was gone.
Let me ask you this question, Chuck. After you had this sighting, how long did it take for you to tell anybody about this?
You know what? I tell you, Mo, I'm a pretty outgoing person, and always have been. I'm pretty people friendly, and I think it was probably by the next day I was telling people about it and showing them the picture. And of course, you're always going to have skeptics, and you're always going to have people that don't believe what you saw, or what you're telling them.
Or call you crazy.
Or call you crazy. And I think that's with any subject in life. Whatever a person believes in, the people are always going to be skeptical. And, I've even thought about, kill or not kill attitude. And I'm kind of at the point that I don't even think if someone actually killed one and had it on display, and we found out that, yeah, it is real, what's being shown, I still think that that's not going to make people believe. I still think that they're going to be skeptical. I still think they're going to raise questions about what's actually there. I just, so to kill or not to kill, why kill one? I don't think that's going to prove to anybody, or at least most people, that these things are real.
I see your point. I definitely see your point there.
It's kind of a shame, there's so much evidence out there now to where you really don't have to kill one. I mean, generally speaking, with footprints, with the vocals, with sighting reports. If we were talking about some bear that was extinct and people were seeing some bear, we found its tracks, we heard its vocals, it would be recognized. But Bigfoot just kind of has a weird, stigma to it.
Right.
Well, Chuck, thanks for coming on with us, man. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Chuck. Anytime. And it's a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah,
and I will say that Bob and all the guys down there, it's an experience that you won't ever forget, and I would recommend it to those that believe and skeptics alike. Super, super good bunch of guys. They know their stuff. They know what they're doing. And, man, I had a heck of a time, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Well, we'd love to have you back, man.
Sure would. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Have a good night.
All right, Wes. It's a pleasure talking to you, buddy.
Later, Chuck.
too.
Take care, Chuck.
Good night, Chuck.
All right.
No, but I'll tell you, man, the one good thing about it is, they put those audios out, and one of the things that Chuck got, which was really, really interesting, and Bob Truskowski actually got it as well, and I think Sean may have got it on his recorder as well, is when the chunk of concrete came flying into the camp, they had recorders out in that area, and you can hear the concrete come flying through and hit the tree and the ground and everything, and then you hear the two guys going back and forth. Did you throw that at me? No, I thought you threw it. No, they're going back and forth. So just to get that on recording and hearing that whole conversation is pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool. You have to send it to me.
Yeah, well,
I'd like to upload them to the website.
Yeah.
What we do need to talk about is that incident where those guys got and you know what, Wes? It's not a rock. It's a big
chunk of concrete.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
And was it thrown into the camp?
No, it was thrown at those guys. They were the furthest back away from the main camp. They were the furthest away.
Yeah, I looked at their tent and their placement of their tent, and I'm like, I tried to tell them, I said, maybe you guys need to come a little bit closer. But they're like, no, man, we want to stay up here. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
One of the things I was reading on the forum about the, some people here, there's coyote. Those are just coyotes on the Jurassic Park vocal. But the thing is they are correct. There are some coyotes at the end, and we are very much aware of that. But the first two calls there's nothing coyote about them. And one of the things that we do, and one of the things we like to teach people on doing these things is, when you have an audio, there's several things you need to do when you're doing your audio other than just listen to it. You need to run it through a spectrograph. And Audacity has it, Goldwave has it on the spectrograph, because coyotes have a very distinct spectral marker. And that's how we can actually discern between certain calls and things like that.
I don't know. I didn't think for one moment that was coyotes.
There was some coyotes at the end. They were in there yipping. Towards
the end, yeah. But, I mean, the main vocal wasn't coyotes.
Oh, no. They weren't.
Let's bring Raisha on. She had the monkey chatter, I believe.
Yes.
I want to welcome Raisha to the show. Raisha, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
And if you would, Raisha, you had the monkey chatter. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, would you like me just to kind of go into kind of what happened or what we were doing out there? Or?
Yeah, just kind of start from the beginning and walk us into it.
Okay. Well, Mo had kind of come to a few of us and said that they had kind of chosen a few of us to kind of go to an area that they typically don't take outsiders, so to speak. They had chosen myself, my husband, There was, I think, 3 other gentlemen along with Mo. We were in one vehicle, a minivan, and then there was Waylon and his fiance that was in another vehicle. So we headed out to this location, and on the way out there, Mo kind of gave us a little bit of information, kind of telling us kind of some things they've experienced, kind of what had gone on at this location. We talked about how Sasquatches are kind of masters of mimicking other wildlife, and maybe to specifically kind of listen to them possibly mimicking some of the cows or cattle that were out at a ranch not too far. So when we got to the location, we pulled up, and I mean, just to give you an idea of what this location is like, it's like just the deepest, darkest, black abyss of nothing when you pull up out there. It's so dark. I was telling a friend that it's like if you went inside a closet, a dark closet, shut the door, closed your eyes, and then placed your hands over your eyes. That's the kind of darkness I'm talking about. You couldn't see a thing in front of you. We all got out of our vehicles, and then keep in mind the minivan we were in had those automatic back sliding doors on each side. So we got out and kind of huddled together, and then Mo again kind of went over more in detail of some information and things that had happened on that location that really shocked me, and it really took me a minute to kind of process some of the information, some of the things that have been going on out there. I mean, to the point where I was worried. I didn't think we had enough gunpowder on us. I thought we need more guns on us because we had my husband carrying, Mo, and Waylon. And I was like, I think we need a little bit more heat. I was concerned and I was scared.
What did you say, Mo?
Well, I basically told them that there have been some people that have been taken from their vehicle. I'm not going to go into detail, but I know, and I mean, I've heard this secondhand, but I know the source that told me this person would not make this up, and this person had contacts in the sheriff department and stuff, and 3 gentlemen were taken out of their vehicles, and they were killed. They were ripped to shreds. I mean, I hate this. I hate to, I just wanted them to know that this is, this stuff goes on out here. So, and I asked them, do you guys, are you sure you want to go any further? And if one of them would have said no, I wouldn't taken anybody out there. I would say, okay, we'll just sit here and we'll listen for vocals. But they all agreed and said, no, let's go. We can go.
I got you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's the story. It just really takes your breath away. You have to stop and think a minute. But I mean, we were out there for a purpose. We were out there, all of us, because we wanted to see what we could experience, and that's what we were all there for. And we were ready to keep moving forward. Once we went single file with Mo in the lead, brave Mo. I don't know how you do it. We had Waylon bringing up the rear, and I was actually in the back with Waylon and my husband and his fiance. And the first area that you walk into, there's a small bridge. I mean, I don't even know if you can call it a bridge. I mean, it's maybe, and correct me, Mo, if I'm wrong, maybe 5 feet wide, 15 feet long, if even that. It's just a small bridge, I think, that's there, so you can walk over a small, not even a creek, but a small stream of water that's kind of muddy. And Mo had mentioned to us that they have seen small footprints, smaller squatch out there. And we kind of looked around, and we did see a very small, I don't know, maybe 4 inches long, if even that. My husband and I saw, we both saw a small footprint. And you could distinctly see, the heel, the 5 toes. You could see where kind of the toes would kind of push up and the mud would come up in a toe print. And it didn't taper off or get narrow at the heel. It was almost as wide at the heel as it was, at the toes. And for me, for a moment, I mean, I just thought that was, that was just great because, when I went out there, my whole objective, I went out there as a student. I just wanted to learn and soak in and process everything that Mo and Tim and Bob and all the guys, all the information they could give me. So if I was able to see a footprint or a track or to have a sighting or a vocal, I mean, to me, that was just icing on the cake. So to see a footprint was, for me, was exciting, but at the same time, I was like, usually when there's something small around, Big Mama or Big Daddy's around too. So that's why, you start to realize, the stuff's real. This is real. This is not a joke. We just kept moving forward. I don't think we'd even gone more than 5 minutes walking when Mo stopped the group. And I think maybe, Mo, you stopped the group just so we could listen and to give us a little bit of information.
Yeah, I
And
also stopped you and told you about where Wes and Bob got the, basically got the log thrown at them. That's where we stopped.
Right. At that time, we just sat there. I, for a second, was listening to Mo. I'm looking around, and keep in mind, the whole time I've got the night vision in my left hand, and I've got my digital tape recorder in my right hand. And so I'm just trying to just listen to what Mo has to say. And as he's talking, we hear this owl vocalization. And it was so clear, so crisp. I mean, it was a beautiful owl. The sound was just beautiful, and you could tell it was very close. And I could tell, for me, it sounded like it was coming from the direction of our vehicles, where we were parked. And as soon as it came down on the pitch of the vocal and stopped, Waylon immediately said, okay, that's an owl. I think he even said what type of owl. He said, that's definitely an owl. And so we were standing there listening, and it did it again. Same owl sound, same pitch, came down. Waylon said, again, that's definitely an owl. And as soon as he said that, there was another vocalization. For me, when I heard this owl vocalization, I could slightly tell it was just seemed a little deeper and a little louder. And then when it came down again from its pitch and began to end the sound, that's when it kind of ended with this gibberish or chatter sound. And immediately, Waylon and Mo said, that's not an owl. We've got to go. And for me, in my head, I was peeved for a second. I was like, what are you talking about? This is what we were here for. This is what we wanted to get. This is what, we've been waiting for. But you could see, again, they said, we've got to go. This is a warning. And at that point, you could definitely see the sense of urgency in their tone, the way they looked, that we needed to leave. It was like, code red, we've got to go. And so I turned around. I told my husband, which when I turned around, he'd already pulled his handgun out, had it in his hand. And I said, hold this tape recorder, because I wanted to get my flashlight out. I wanted to be able to see exactly where I was walking, exactly where I was going. And, no one panicked. Mo and Waylon let us out. We didn't run, but we moved with a purpose. And as we were going out, we were just flashing the light back and forth, just making sure, we could see our surroundings, see what's going on. Now, when we got to the vehicles, as cliche as it sounds, it was like something out of a horror movie. We got to our vehicles, and for whatever reason, on the driver's side, they could not get those doors open. On the passenger side. I was on the driver's side, opened the back automatic slide door. The gentleman who was driving got in his side, but Mo and my husband, other two guys, could not, I don't know what happened, could not get those doors open. So I just kept telling them. And, of course, and again, it's so dark, and it's just quiet. It's so eerily quiet. It's like this void of any noise. You literally feel like you just know you're being watched. You feel that feeling that something is watching you, just to see, just to make a move on you, to see, what's going to happen. And I just told the guys, come around to the car, just come around on my side, jump in, come around on my side and jump in. And I think actually Mo went and got in the other vehicle, Waylon. The other guys finally came around, jumped in the back, got in the car, and we left as calmly as we came in. When we rode back, it's funny because we were all speechless. We didn't say anything. We were really just trying to process what happened and what we went through. And it's just like you hear on many occasions, you're thinking to yourself, did I really hear that? Did this just really happen to me?
I know the area you're talking about, and Mo's right, there was some people that were ripped apart in that area. And that's actually where I heard the monkey chatter, too, as well. You know that road to get out of that, I know for the audience listening, this is going to be vague and means nothing, but the road to get out of there, we actually had a tree that was pushed down across that road and just showed up out of nowhere. And that is a creepy area. That's definitely a creepy area. What was your overall take on the trip?
You know, I was just, when I first heard it on your show announced, that they were going to have this expedition, I was ecstatic. I couldn't wait. I remember I pulled over the car, called my husband, said, we've got to be on this expedition. He said, hang up, call him now. And we immediately called, and left a message for Mo, but it was phenomenal. I mean, it's not one of these things where, it's so rigid. We're going to do this at this time, this at that time. You've got this strict agenda. I mean, it's like going out there with your friends, your family, and just being able to just openly and freely just ask questions, get information, walk around, do what you feel like you want to do, what you want to look at. They help you put up the game cams. They show you how to cast prints. But I think most importantly, they keep you safe. And that's something I really came away with from this expedition is a higher sense of awareness of that I need to be safer when I'm out there, when my husband and I are out there doing our own thing. Because this isn't a game. This is real. And, and I didn't really think about that. So, or you don't think about it. You're really out there in the dark, something happens, and then, again, you realize, what, the shit's real. And I just feel like when you poke and you prod and you walk into their space and mess with their area, nothing good's going to come out of it if you're not careful. And that's one thing I really appreciate from these guys is they always made sure we were safe, always let us know, what could happen and what we need to be aware of and what we need to do if something did happen. But, I mean, I would recommend it to anyone. If you have the opportunity to go with them and to do this, do it. Jump on it. Take this opportunity because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It was for me, but I couldn't recommend it more. I know Bob wasn't able to really be there because of the circumstances that occurred, and I would love to just pick his brain for 1 hour, every question I have. So I know when I went out there, Mo was probably laughing because I brought out my piece of paper and I have all of my questions written down there because I thought we would have to sit down Q&A, but it was just so relaxed and just, ask whatever you had to ask while we're walking on the trails, while we're sitting down. I stayed up to over 3 in the morning with Tim and Bob's son and some other guys, Waylon, and just asking them questions, trying to get as much information as I could. But I recommend anyone, if you've got the chance to go with them, go.
Well, cool. I'm glad that you had a good time.
Mm-hmm. I did.
Wes kind of coined the term Jurassic Park. What did you think when you were out there and you started hearing all that, all the things going on around?
I would, like I said, if I were to hear a vocal or to have a sighting, that was icing on the cake. But I never expected, even when we were at the first base camp, I mean, just you could hear the vocals out there. You could hear them. I didn't even mention to you guys, I have my GoPro, and while I was in the tent, I was going through all my GoPro, all the things I'd recorded, and I was sitting and I was one where I'm sitting in my tent, I'm getting it ready, and I had it on, and I even caught a vocal. It's maybe 3 seconds long, but it's so clear on the GoPro, and I was just messing with it, making sure it worked. But I really it's just amazing that you're going to hear something out there. I mean, they're out there, it was not a problem to get a vocal. The chatter, the gibberish, like I call it the gibberish, I haven't had a chance to listen to the whole tape. When I get it back, I'm going to listen to everything and what we said, what went on. But it's just not what I just didn't expect that. I really didn't expect that, and so soon. And it was scary. It was scary. It was an eye-opener, and again, it just made me realize, this is real, this isn't a game. It's definitely Jurassic Park out there. If you go out there, you need to be prepared. I mean, they call it the big thicket for a reason. I mean, it's
Right.
thick. I mean, you were out there, Wes. It's thick. It's nothing to play with.
Yeah, you're right. The vocals, like you said, it's almost a nightly basis. Did you guys go out to Monkey Pond, or did you guys get kicked out of there?
Oh, we didn't go we didn't go to Monkey Pond. Actually, no, we didn't really get kicked out of Monkey Pond. We just didn't go.
Didn't go. There's one thing that I wanted to just say to people out there. There's the night expeditions, but the day expeditions are actually pretty good too, and I'll tell you why. Because you actually visually get to see vantage points that squatches have. And Risha and her husband John, I took them up a little incline and showed them areas where squatches could sit behind, big deadfall or behind even live trees and just watch the bikers, the mountain bikers go by, watch people jogging go by during the day, and, you wouldn't even see these squatches.
Right. I think I was telling Mo that it seems that our bike trails, our hiking trails, for them, it just seems like those are their game trails. That's where, if they wanted to take someone, it's the perfect opportunity, because we saw bikers out there, people hiking that just have no idea, and it would be so easy. But to me, that's their game trail. That's what they look for, people going by. If they want someone, they can take him.
Yeah, and that spot that you guys were at, Risha, we went out there during the day. One time I was with Mo, and we were all trying to be quiet, and then something crashed through the woods, and it was too big to be a hog. I mean, just crashed through the woods. So you're right. I mean, they're out there even during the day, and you kind of get a good look of where they're at on both sides of the trail. And that's not far from where we saw that, I don't know if it was a Dogman track. The real weird track was in that same area.
The same area, yeah.
Yeah, and they were, they did talk to us. I had questions, at least for myself, about the Dogman and what they'd seen and what their take was on that. And again, I was very appreciative of them just sharing their thoughts, letting me know what their opinion was on it, and not holding back. And you don't feel silly asking some of the questions, because I'm sure some of my questions were, maybe just, kind of naive, but you're there to learn. That's what that's what they're there for. They're the guys that have been out there with the slick equity in the trenches, so to speak. I mean, they're the ones you ask. They're the ones that know. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're the experts. So I learned a lot. I want to go back. I want to do it again. In fact, I was telling my husband. I remember Tim. My husband thinks that he's created a monster, but I remember Tim saying, if you want to go out and get tracks, you want to get videos, you want to experience things, you need to go out and do it yourself then. And that's what I want to do. I want to go out myself. I want to experience this, but within that realm of safety with people who know what they're doing. So.
Well, that was kind of my point, though. I mean, yeah, do your own work, but, you need to know how, because not everybody knows what to look for. They don't know, I've seen many a tree bows that occur naturally in nature, and the people are going ooh and ah over it, and you're like, really? And some of the stick structures. So, we want to teach folks. That was our whole purpose on doing this. So we just happen to know where a lot of them are, and, teach you what to look for on trails, and when you find a track, the difference. I mean, Bob's a horrible teacher because not a horrible teacher. He's what's the word, Mo? A hard teacher.
Yeah, hard.
Because hard. Because I casted a boot track, when I was starting, and he knew it was a boot track. So
learn by your mistakes, right?
Well, that was his point. So, but I can pick out a boot track now.
Well, one thing I did learn, and I told Risha and John this, and we sort of laughed at it, but I tell everybody, and it may sound kind of funny, but I say, when you're walking through the forest, walk like Bob Garrett.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Walk like him. He just glides through the forest.
He just strolls.
He strolls, and he will. And when I was first learning, he goes, "Okay, Mo, what are we looking at here?" I'm like, I don't know, Bob. What? He's like, Mo, what are we looking at here? He's a hard teacher, like Tim said, and like I said, I just felt like I don't know what I'm looking at, Bob. Mo, I'm going to tell you this one time, and you better remember it. So he's a hard teacher. He's a fair teacher, but he is an awesome teacher, and I love Bob for that.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, I remember someone saying, "Don't just look in front of you, around you. Look up. Look up. Look everywhere. Don't just look down and around. Look up." So I was always, especially that night, I was like throwing that flashlight up in the air, looking up, just waiting to see something up above me, just staring down. Because again, that owl sound, it was just the sounds we heard were so close, and definitely in the direction of our vehicles. And it was just because it's just void of any noise at all in that area, and then when you hear something, it's just so clear, and it's just right there.
Well, I don't know if I told you this, Risha, but as I was in the rear position, there was a growl behind me, a low guttural growl behind me, and that really, really freaked me out. I mean, I could hear these growls 100 million times, and every single time it would freak me out and scare me. I didn't tell some of you that because I just didn't want to freak you guys out.
Well, I know my husband, he told me that. He said that, Mo said he heard a growl, and I didn't even hear that. I mean, I was so focused on, moving with a purpose, not stopping, staying calm. But no, he did tell me that you said that, and that's why when we got to the car and those doors couldn't get open, I was like, this can't be happening with this door. And I don't know what happened with those doors, but I was like, just come around to the other side, get in, just climb over me. And I can't imagine, I just know, because it was just out of a bad B-rated horror movie that the door wouldn't open. And
well, I got eye shine down by the creek, and it was a greenish eye shine, and the eyes are very wide apart, and that's what I'm like saying to the guy, come on, man, get the door open, what's going on? He's like, I never drove a freaking minivan before, give me a break.
And then I remember specifically hearing you went around, because you're the intelligent one at that point, you asked Waylon, can I get in the car with you, while the other three guys are still messing with this door. And I'm like, just come around to the side and jump in the car. They finally ran around, jumped in, and then I slid the door shut, and we were off. But, when we came home, I was looking at the website, of that area that we went to. And it's just, to me, it's frightening, the pleasant little photos of the family and the little kids and their backpacks and having a great time and all the pictures. I'm like, I don't have any idea. And that's the thing I think that bothers me the most. I just wish, the powers that be would just come out with it. Just let us know what's out there. Give us a little bit of credit,
Yes.
that we're not going to all go crazy over this. That way, people can make an educated decision. Do I want to go out there? Do I want to bring my kids out there? Do I want to bring my grandkids out there? But just give us a little credit, do the right thing, and just say it. Just tell us they're out there,
Amen, Risha. Amen.
Well, one thing about that area, though, I mean, people do go out there and they do stay on the trails, and for the most part, they're fine. The Bigfoots in that area have just kind of adapted, and they just kind of avoid everybody, But when you go out there at night, it's a different story, because nobody's out there on the trails at night. I agree with you. They just need to come on out with it and just say, "Hey, here you go." Believe me, they don't. It's not for protection, because they don't need our protection. They're doing fine on their own.
Yeah, and when you're in the area, you sense it that this is their area. At night, this is their area, not yours, and they are tolerating you at that moment being there. That's all they're doing, because at any moment, if they don't feel like tolerating you anymore, game over.
That's right, and that's why when
get out of there.
Yeah. That's why when people say, "Hey Mo, do some sounds, come on, man, come on," and I'm like, you don't understand. You don't understand. You can piss these things off so freaking easy. And I did some sounds the first night on the pipeline. I was doing those loud screeches that I do, and that's when I got that chatter like we did down at that one area. And that's when I was like, and I even told Tim, I said, Tim, I don't want to go any further, but everybody in the group said, let's go further, man, let's go. So that's what we did. And then I stopped doing sounds. Yeah, I stopped doing those screech sounds.
And to y'all's credit, when we were out at the second base camp, Tim and everyone, they took us out on, I think it's y'all called it the Spooky Trail. I think it's kind of a name for it.
Spooky Lane.
You know, we got so far, and then there was one person who didn't feel comfortable, didn't want to go any further. Everybody said, it's fine. You know, if the one person doesn't feel comfortable, we're turning around, we're going back. And we did, and we went back. So to their credit, you know, they listen, and they're very aware of, you know, everyone's comfort level, and if one person doesn't feel right about it, you know, then we need to go back and try something else. So I appreciate that fact, because, again, it created, this whole thing's made me realize, you know, I'm not going to go out and do these things on my own, my husband and I, because that's just stupid. You know, because these, like I said, these things, when I was out there, I realized this is the real stuff. This isn't a game. These things are real. And I don't want to be a statistic, you know, a hidden statistic, so to speak.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, Risha, and telling us about your experiences.
Well, sure. I appreciate you having me, and I don't know if you're going to be playing the chatter, the tape any for the show, but it's interesting.
I think Bob T is trying to see what he can do with it. There's a lot of extra noise in the recording itself, even though you can't hear it. But, you know, he likes to isolate the sounds themselves and amplify them, and then run high-pass, low-pass filters through them in order to get the best quality out of the recording that he can get. So he's still got it, and he's working on it.
And we'll get it back to you. We'll get the recorder back to you, Risha.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I just can't wait to hear it. And then I tell my husband I have to give him credit, because when I handed that digital recorder to him, and he already had his gun in his left hand, he carried that thing, didn't drop it, didn't turn it off, carried it like a champ all the way to the car. I mean, and so he deserves a little credit for that, because I don't think I could have done it. I probably would have dropped it once I wanted to grab my flashlight. I was so nervous. Because like I said, we were moving with a purpose to get out of there. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Sure, and I hope you feel better.
I appreciate it. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Risha, for everything. It was a great time meeting you and your husband.
Absolutely, and thank you.
Sure, I appreciate y'all having us, and let us know when the next one's at. Maybe we'll try to make that one, or, you know, if you have a full crowd, let somebody else have their opportunity.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
You're very welcome.
Take care now.
All right. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Did you guys have any skeptics that came on?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Rock and this guy from Boston. Rock's from Chicago. He's from Chicago. And he's, you know, if I didn't know better, he's like Al Capone's nephew.
He was a trip. No, you're not lying, man.
Yeah, he was a good guy, but he came out there, and yeah, it was pretty good. But one guy from Boston came out, and he was very skeptical. And you know, he said something to me. He actually said something to me and Mo in Wayland. He wanted a copy of the drone footage. Of course, we're not releasing that at all. And we both told him I didn't think so, but we agreed we'd, you know, at best we'll give you a still picture of it, you know. So he looked at me and Mo, and he said, you know, as far as I'm concerned, that's right up there with the Patterson-Gimlin film. And I'm like, I wouldn't go that far, but I think it's pretty good.
That's what he said, though. That's what he said. That was his description of it.
Oh, yeah. So I felt, you know, pretty honored, and, you know, we're all pretty proud of that footage, but
It's good footage.
Yeah, but it's no Patterson-Gimlin film, but it's pretty good.
Well, guys, I was gonna have another guest come on, but my fever's spiking, man. I feel like I'm gonna pass out.
Oh, you gotta get better, man. Oh, brother, I feel so bad for you.
I mean,
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on, because I wouldn't have done the show without you guys. Like I said, this morning, the fever, I've never had a fever this high before ever in my life. You know, I've always had like 100, 101.
Yeah.
You get up to like 103, man. You're cooking.
Oh, yeah. You need to go take you some Motrin.
Oh, yeah. I've taken like 8 today. Do you want to share the next dates and how people can reach you for the expedition?
Okay. Well, if anybody wants to come on one of these expeditions, we've got some dates still open. We'll be going into July, and then we'll stop, and then we'll start back up in the fall. Now, the dates for April are the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, which is the first weekend of April, and then the 29th, 30th, and 1st of May. And then in June, it's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And then the other weekend will be the last weekend in June, which is the 24th, 25th, and 26th. And then in July, it's going to be the second week after 4th of July, which is the 8th, 9th, and 10th. And then again, we'll be starting up in the fall. And that's pretty much, those are the dates. Give me a call. We'll do a little phone interview. My number is 443-794-7698. Again, my name is Mo Michaud. You can text me if you want to. Okay?
Thanks, guys.
Take care, my brother.
Okay. Thank you. Get to feeling better.
And that's it for tonight, everyone. Remember, if you've had an encounter, shoot me an email, wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. And Sunday's up in the air. We'll have to see how I'm doing. I apologize to everyone. Didn't anticipate getting sick. But until next time, everyone, have a good night.